Do you feel lethargic, have no energy, foggy, fatigued, bloated, can't seem to lose weight no matter what you do? You keep wondering, is something wrong with me? I was just like you before I did this full body detox.
Varicose veins. I've had very seriously awful colored varicose veins since I was 18 years old. And I started using this stuff, and one bottle, that was a big bottle, but one bottle, and it is 85% gone.
Okay, now look, you sent me a text 4 days after you put that on and said that there was such a tremendous, in 4 days. I mean, I was so surprised. I was teaching my PhD class at the time, and I actually took the phone and showed the text to her. I said, okay, this guy only 3 times a day, just so you can see all the wide variety of uses there is for this stuff, because that's really nothing short of phenomenal, truly.
Well, and I think this is some of the key things about having the mold in your body that we need to cover is that, I turned 56 when this happened to me. And I know for the last 5.5 years, I've been in an extremely dangerously moldy place. But I have been exposed to and been toxified by mold, I believe, basically since birth. I mean, I was born in Western Pennsylvania. Then I went to lived 2 years on a ship in the United States Navy. Then I went to a very moldy island out in the middle of the Atlantic. And now I live in Western Pennsylvania again. It's mold in every basement. And here in Toledo, it's just the same. But when I saw the difference in those varicose veins, I knew when the emergency room doctor said to me, mold doesn't cause heart attacks, she had no freaking clue what she was talking about. And that's why I came to you. And so that's where we're going to talk about the very specific protocol that people want to use to get the mold, because we're going to cover how to get it out of the house and everything else. So we want to keep
and that's important, Sven, because here's the thing is, doing this mold protocol, although it's extremely effective and it can be done while you're living in that toxic soup, absolutely can be done. You're not going to even break even if you're still living in that environment. And here's the simple thing: you want to not spend a lot of money on testing. You can just leave your house for a weekend and see if you start to feel better. If you do, guess what? You've got an indoor air quality issue. It's just that simple. So it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Now, cleaning it up, obviously, yes, that's for another time. So like I was explaining with the mold, the problem is mold attaches with a hook, line, and sinker, with a filament, with a leucana, to tissue. So we need something that's the opposite, or the polarity charge, the opposite charge to the mold, so that we can pull it out of the tissue and get it into the GI tract, where we can then evacuate it from the body using various means. So the first thing that you must do is you must make sure that you have an empty stomach, okay? Because otherwise, this particular substance will be attracting other food molecules instead of pulling out the molds. So what I found in doing my research, and the majority of this research originally came from, and I want to give them kudos, and I've worked with them, done some testing with them, gotten a lot of my information from Dr. Richie Shoemaker. And he's on the East Coast during that Pfiesteria outbreak. His office was just getting flooded, and it was a myriad of health issues. Someone was having cardiovascular issues, somebody else was having digestive issues, somebody else was having insomnia, and it turns out that it was the Pfiesteria outbreak that was the underlying cause to all of this. So he got in and discovered something called the biotoxin pathway, and that really will show you how the dysregulation of hypothalamic control factors turns on all the inflammatory pathways and actually can downregulate all glandular function. Whoever system is the weakest, yours is your cardiovascular. So that's why we get different outcomes with different people. Okay. He says he can absolutely pull this mold out of the tissue using CSM. Now, what that is that's a cholesterol med that's very toxic. So what I did, because I will not use the meds, as you well know, because I'm not trying to put a toxin in with the toxin, which is why he says he can't cure people of mold poisoning, but he can stop them from getting any sicker. Well, I love when someone tells me that they can't do something. Okay. I just love that. That's like so much fun. It like lights that fire under my butt, because doing this for 50 years, you get kind of bored. So I had a personal issue with all this, because I got bit by a brown recluse spider that almost killed me. It's the same pathway. So I was on a personal mission to try to get my health back to what I expected it to be. Everybody else still thought I was super grown. I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. I couldn't even walk into the mall to take my daughter shopping for her school clothes without wearing a mask. And even if I did wear a mask, because what I would absorb through my skin and my ears and my eyes, I would be sick for 2 weeks. I mean, I would make myself get up and function, but it was everything I could to cattle prod myself to do this. And I mean, there's just a lot of things that I wasn't able to do, and recovery was always very, very slow going. So anyway, fast forward, I find Richie Shoemaker. It's about 10 years after my spider bite, and I'm realizing, okay, this guy is basically answered what I feel is the missing link to all the questions I've had in my head when it comes to medicine. He absolutely nailed it. So he uses the CSM as the magnet to pull the mold out of the body into the colon, where he then uses, you know, various antibiotics and this type of stuff. So our protocol, I went out and I searched, and this took me about another 8 years, I'm going to say. Well, 1999. Anyway, I'm getting my math screwed up. Must be the mold brain, but the point's going to remain the same. And that is that I looked up the charge of the CSM, and then I went through a huge data bank because I do frequency medicine, and I'm trying to find what would be the natural analog, you know, the same charge. So what I came up with was chitosan.
Okay.
And so I started going out and teaching how chitosan can pull mold out of tissue very responsibly, very nicely. And then Nutricology came out with a microchitosan, which is even better. But you know, if you can't get your hands on Nutricology's microchitosan, I'm telling you, chitosan will do the same trick. Now, yes, it's called, some people call it chitosan. I pronounce it chitosan. Yeah, I can see that really well. People will be able to see that.
Yeah.
What you do is you wake up in the morning, you've got an empty stomach. So this is a good time to start this. You're going to, depending on your body size and on your mold burden, you have to be careful. This can constipate you because it's such a strong binder. So you have to make sure you're keeping your bowels moving while you're doing this, because we don't want you reabsorbing these poisons. So first we have to make sure that, you know, you've got enough magnesium and maybe colonics. That's what you guys are doing, is the colonics. So we just guarantee we're getting this the colon moving through this whole process. But you take that microchitosan on an empty stomach, and then you're going to wait. You're going to wait 20 to 30 minutes. And then you're going to take a very specific enzyme, because what happens with a lot of the pathogens that are morphogenic, they change shapes, they change forms, and they become very stealthy, and they end up what would be the equivalent like a walnut husk around them. So no matter what you do, dynamite or anything, whatever you use, you can't get to the little critter that's inside the walnut husk. So we have to take an enzyme to break this down. The enzyme, my enzyme of choice, is biofilm detox.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that I choose from Dr. Dale out in California. I just like the way she put all the enzymes together. That's not to say that you can't just get serrapeptidase, or we have some Candex and Candida E's. We have other formulas specifically for that biofilm on the mold, but I just find that this one, I mean, I've had some people that are chronic Candida overgrowth patients, and they've tried everything in the health food store. They've even gone as far as trying diflucan and some of the other products that are on the market, but they always end up with the Candida overgrowth. And this particular product, I'm happy to say, I mean, unto itself has actually cleared up some people's chronic, 30-year-old Candida problem.
Wow.
So I kind of stick with this. But again, if I don't have this, remember, I didn't have this. I sent you Candex and Repair Gold, your first round.
Right.
Because I didn't have the biofilm, and I'm going to tell you that's going to work. I just feel this is, in my experience, this is going to be the best one. So if you can't get this one, go ahead and use the serrapeptidase and some of the other enzymes that are famous for breaking down this biofilm. The biofilm is also, if you get plaque on your teeth, that's a biofilm. Or if you see a rock in the water and it has like that mossy stuff and you just can't even scrub that off, that's a biofilm. So people can understand what this might be.
Okay.
All right, so now you've taken that biofilm, and then you're going to have to give that 20 minutes to break down the walnut husk. So you've used the microchitosan to pull the mold into your GI tract, and then you're going to use the biofilm to break down the walnut husk. Now we've exposed the mold. Now is when we're going to actually hit it. And my method of choice is always going to be homeopathics. When it comes to a pathogenic burden, I'm a PhD in homeopathy, and I love homeopathy. I find it extremely effective and really